make a start, that would be great, thank you. Good morning everyone, thank you for joining me for this workshop on metaplanning, the use of metaplanning as an approach to collaborative development of a pre-sessional summer CPD programme. I want to start with a sincere apology. If you thought this discussion was going to be given to you by the lead singer of Coldplay, Martin Clunes as Dr. Martin, then my sincere apologies. Yes, I do get that very often. So, I'm based at the Birmingham International Academy, part of the University of Birmingham. I thought the best way to talk you through this process, this approach of metaplanning, is to actually get you to do it. So there's going to be a bit of moving around, I'm afraid. So all of the action is happening on this side of the room, and I'll talk you through the process. But as I said, the best way to do it is to actually have a go do it yourselves. So I want you to all imagine that you are in an induction for a summer pre-sessional. You are all pre-sessional English teachers, okay? That's what I'd like you to think about. So the aim of the session then is to give you the opportunity to discuss individual and group needs regarding professional development during the pre-sessional programme, and to develop a draft plan of a possible CPD programme for the summer. Now, at the University of Birmingham, we have a capabilities framework which we give to teachers that's based on the team competencies. And we have taken these two particular criteria, so taking responsibility for professional development and building relationships, as the key criteria that would be addressed by doing this activity. So, this is going back to what Lindsay was talking about earlier with regards to community practice. We all have different interpretations of what community practice is, but would anyone be willing just to share their definition, their interpretation of what a community practice actually is? Yeah?
A supportive group that isn't directive in any way and allows people to explore their ideas, but without being led or I don't know, contradicted, but just supported in sharing their ideas and exploring their ideas.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to add another interpretation?
It could be a linguistic community of practice, people speaking the same language, coming from the same country.
Indeed, yeah. So communities of practice exist in different contexts, but we're looking particularly at our communicative practice within an EAP context. And according to, again, Etienne Wenger, as we saw earlier, a community practice is a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something that they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. Okay? This was the quote that I thought encapsulated the idea of a community practice pretty well within a teacher-educator context, and you'll see why in just a moment. We talk about domains, communities and practice. So the domain, of course our domain is EAP. We have our community, we are a community of EAP practitioners, and we have an interest on our daily practice. And this is really, as I said, encapsulates this idea of teacher education. And again, you'll see how this community of practice idea feeds in. So, one of the things that I have encountered, I've just realised I'm not actually in shot, but the fact I'm only 5'5" as well, which doesn't help, so it's probably just catching the top of my head. The issue that I've noticed, and I'm not sure if this is the same in your context, but CPD sometimes gets used synonymously with training. And there is a bit of a training mindset. So, are you going to the training this afternoon? The idea is we're not training people to do anything. They are already trained practitioners. The idea of professional development is we are building people's existing skill sets. So what we aim to do is to move away from a more transmissive model to one that is more transformative. And Aileen Kennedy, who I think is based at Strathclyde, provides this really useful table to show these models of CPD, how you start with the training model, and as you work your way through, you then come to community and practice model, going into the action research model. Now, the approach that we're going to be looking at, this meta-planning approach, is a form of action research, because what we're doing is actually gathering data. But then we're going to use this data to inform the development of a CPD programme. And again, this ties in with what Lindsay was saying earlier. It's the added value of learning communities, viewing the existence of individual knowledge and combinations of several individuals' knowledge through practice. So when we develop our CPD programme, it's not only the CPD coordinators who deliver it. When we have gathered our data, we then ask our EAP teachers if anyone feels comfortable with delivering a particular session. Maybe they have a PhD, it's related to their research, maybe they are doing research. So we open it out to anyone who would like to facilitate a session. Okay? So, with this in mind, if you remember, we are all presessional teachers about to embark on our teaching for the summer. What would be your initial concerns or issues related to presessional teaching? And in an ideal world, or if we have time, what would be your passions and aspirations? Okay? On your table, you will see post-its. Could I ask you to put one idea on each post-it? So maybe 2 issues and 2 aspirations, or 1, it's up to you, however many you can think of. And then could I ask you please to kind of stick them on the respective poster paper here.
So, question.
Yes.
Passions and interests isn't my passions and interests in those presessional, it's passions and interests
In EAP, yes, in EAP in general. Yeah. Or it may be something that you want to focus on. Okay. So I'm just going to give you maybe 3-4 minutes just to do that for me, and then if I could ask you to pop them on the poster paper on the side there for me, and then you'll see how this starts to pan out. Are we okay for post-it notes? Yeah? Yes, I have got old school with poster paper and post-its, if you don't mind moving around a little bit. Okay, don't feel pressured to fill the post-it note or to use every single one. Okay, if it's just 1 or 2 for each one, that's fine. That was a quick exit. So unfortunately, a lecture theatre is not conducive to this kind of activity, so we're going to do what teachers do best and make it work. That's true. That's okay if they're all concerned or all passionate. Passionately concerned. That's a good way of doing it, Michelle. Okay. We now have our poster paper well populated, which is fantastic, thank you. I actually should have said this to you before and you've all returned to your seats. I was going to ask you to navigate to the nearest posters. So could I ask you to, if you could just come and stand near the posters that are the closest to you. I should have asked you to do that before you went to the other side of the room. Okay, so ideally we should now have 3 groups. So the next part of the meta-planning activity, you're going to look at each of the poster pages, and this time you're going to look at each post-it note and try and group them into themes. Okay? So if you think that maybe 2 or 3 post-it notes refer to learning and teaching, group them together. If it's to do with student well-being, group them together. Okay? So if you could do that for both of the poster pages, that would be great. Thank you. Yes?
And it's just the poster ones that we're in front of.
Just the ones that you're in front of. Yeah, thank you.
There's less on here.
It goes in the middle. I put that in the middle. Isn't that at the centre of the yeah.
Those two, there's no diagram, there's no
Something else. Using technology. I don't know if this one I wanted to just more like systematic functional linguistics. These are and you go with that.
I would just say, it's on my first activity, systemic functional linguistics come up every time.
Does it? Yeah.
Every time.
Learning in the class and evidence learning.
Are you finished? Yeah, so you should see a pen next to you. Could I ask you to then give a title to each of the themes? Okay, so just to give you the next step, when you have grouped your post-it notes thematically, there should be a flip chart pen next to you on one of the tables. Could you please add a suitable title to each of your themes. Okay?
Socially, lots of student interaction that somehow students are going to be more engaged.
This is about, so I suppose that's about
More engaged when they're interacting with each other than when they're interacting with me. Because it was more about being there.
Isn't it lowering?
Knowledge and experience.
This is knowledge and experience.
Oh, it's like about work. That's an easy
Well,
one.
they do more than that.
During the pandemic, imagine having to
The social element.
Yeah.
Tablets is in person.
When you do the grouping, I had to do it. They had to direct me to move close to
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. It should have come to
but this kind of setup is
it's hard to set something.
But surely that's something that's
Okay. Right. The next stage is the exciting part. You should see next to you a set of dots on a page. What you're going to do now is, this is based on your priorities, okay? So what I'd like you to do is use 3 dots for the theme that you think is the highest priority, 2 dots for mid-priority, 1 dot for low priority.
Individually.
Well, individual post-it notes
Individually,
or
yes.
groups of post-it notes.
Sorry?
Individual
For the
post-it
themes,
notes.
yeah.
For the themes.
For the themes that are the high priority, a theme for mid-priority, and a theme for low priority.
As a presessional, if I was a presessional
Yes.
because, or whether a priority in terms of what we could address on CPD.
So priorities that could be addressed through a professional development session in a summer PD programme.
To do sort of one of each.
Yes, so no, so you have to do the same for both pages, does that make sense? Yeah.
so on
the issue, yes, so pick 3 and then manage it. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
The camera, so I go around.
I'm just leaving those there.
Are there any stops that you want
They're on the side.
Are we getting
Yes. Yeah. Dots are all dots like the one we do. It's not the white one, it's the white one.
Oh, you need them?
Yeah, don't use those.
Sorry, that's my
Just rip the page if you want to.
Too busy thinking about things.
It's your page, you've got to just rip the page in half.
Next to the titles of individual post-it notes.
It doesn't really matter as long as it's near to the theme that you both.
To the theme.
Yeah, as long as it's near.
So it's a 1, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1.
Correct.
Put it down and see what he comes up with as the answer to it.
I'm conscious of having my head in shot. Are you wondering? That's okay. It works better if it's done individually, just because you can see the overall.
My doctor in that way.
You can just move these two ones.
There's maybe we have
one, that's what you want to
Okay, so I'm just going to give you 2 or 3 minutes just to cast your vote, and then we'll move on. When you have casted your votes, you can return to your seats. Just to make life a bit easier.
three next to individual. I don't know if it's the right answer.
I think you might have lost the dots.
You tell the teacher that I got dots on
Yes, you are.
Chris, if you find some orange dots on the carpet, I accept full responsibility.
They're actually quite. I did have slightly larger ones, but there's not enough of them, so I ended up having to go with the smaller ones, which are incredibly complicated. Right, first of all, can I just say thank you so much for throwing yourselves headlong into that activity in such a confined space. It's not the easiest of locations to do this kind of activity, but I hope you can see the value of what we have just done, okay? So, with metaplanning is, that just really goes through the process. So, as you saw, you put all of your ideas onto your post-its and then you posted them under the relevant pages. You then worked collaboratively to group them according to themes. Okay? Then, again, some of you did this individually, some of you did it as a team, that's perfectly fine. You then prioritise. Now, of course, priorities change. Okay? And I'm aware of that priorities change. But the beauty with metaplanning is this data can actually be used to inform future PD programmes, because we know how stressful a pre-sessional programme can be when you only have 6 weeks or even 4 weeks. So there could be enough data to actually inform the planning for 2 summers worth of professional development. What's also really good is you can actually, in the second year after doing this, you can revisit it and say, do you think your priorities have now changed? So this can really form the basis of a lot of work, a lot of collaborative work to support the development of a pre-sessional professional development programme. Now, the activity you have just completed is metaplanning. It's a research method, it's a qualitative research method. It's used quite substantially in business to inform decision making. And last summer, I had the idea of trying to introduce it into our induction. And it was an online induction, so what we just did, I actually had a go at doing my Padlet, which presented its own challenges. It can be done. All you do is you ask the teachers to guide you, and you move the posts around to group them, and they tell you the theme. So it can be done using an online platform. But it's another way that goes beyond brainstorming, okay? So when we brainstorm ideas, all we're doing is just simply putting our ideas on paper. What we did is actually went beyond that. We talked about grouping thematically. We talked about you collaborated, how could these be put together? Do you think that should go there, or and it stimulates discussion, okay? And the other thing, everyone was involved. And it's this idea of agency. When we talk about motivation, and we talk about self-determination, one of the forms of motivation, intrinsic motivation, there are 3 psychological criteria that should be fulfilled for an individual to be intrinsically motivated: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. So by giving teachers autonomy, relatedness, it's directly related to their practice. Afterwards, we would take these and we would share the themes with teachers, and we would say, would anyone feel comfortable facilitating a session based on these themes? So when we produce the programme, we could have an extra column at the end that has the theme that the session is addressing, so that the teachers can see the direct link between this activity and the development of the professional development programme. I am slightly ahead of time. I've left 10 minutes for discussion and for questions. But just to revisit the outcomes in true teacher style. So we were looking at discussing individual and group needs regarding CPD and developing a draft plan of possible CPD through metaplanning. So again, you could take photographs of these when they are completed, and then you could use those to inform your professional development plan thereafter. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and I have about 10 minutes for questions. Thank you. Thank you.
So, I'm just asking this, I've wanted to try to replicate this, because we're all in the same room.
Yes.
And thinking about where I work, we've got, teachers finding it difficult to attend, for example, face-to-face CPD, because they're not teaching at different times.
Yeah.
If we're trying to, as you say, gather metadata in order to do what essentially we've just done now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced the same problems in trying to contact all the staff in order to,
Yeah.
to do
So,
this?
so this activity was actually completed during induction. So we had all the teachers together. The induction was conducted online, so as I said, that presents its own possible issues, if you like. I used Padlet to do this. It worked incredibly well for people to post their ideas. The sticking point came to when it came to grouping the comments. It ended up with me actually moving the comments around based on what the teachers were asking me to do. And they told me the headings that they wanted for each of the sections. So it can work, it did work. It just takes a bit of mastery and a bit of time just to get to grips with it. But so at the University of Birmingham we have a 20-week, 15-week, 10-week, 6-week, 4-week. So by the time I got to 4-week, I was a dab hand at it on Padlet. So it can be done. It just needs a little bit of investment of time. But in answer to your question, it was done through induction where we had a captive audience essentially. And this was done with over 100 teachers on the presession programme.
Yeah, I just want to know, did the teachers take you up on the offer for delivering sessions?
Yes, very much so, yeah. In fact, over the 20 weeks, we had, I think it was 4 external speakers where the sessions were quite niche and required some kind of expert input. So, for example, we had a session on mental health and wellbeing that was delivered by the university mental health team. Corpus linguistics comes up quite often. SFL comes up quite often, so we had people from our English language and linguistics department come in and deliver face-to-face sessions. But where the sessions were to do with technology, so just looking at some of these, like student engagement, then teachers were coming forward to offer their thoughts and ideas. So it is very well attended as well. That's partly because they feel a sense of investment. They have put their ideas and thoughts into this programme. Therefore, they do tend to attend quite well. Michelle?
I was just wondering if you use the term metaplanning with the teachers when you're doing this, because for me that is perhaps slightly off-putting, and I'm wondering if, like, calling it something like co-creation might be a better name for it.
Yeah.
But perhaps there are specific reasons for calling it metaplanning.
I guess really with the use of the term metaplanning, the meta part is going beyond just the simple idea of putting your ideas to paper. The meta part, where it comes in with the collaboration, justifying why you're putting things here and there. I did use the term metaplanning, but I obviously explained the term to them beforehand. But I agree with you, then co-creation is probably a more accessible term for everyone, just so they have a clear understanding of what they're actually doing. Yeah.
I really like it as an activity too, and I think I'd steal it for Kings if that's okay.
That's okay, no problem.
So we really beefed up our CPD because we want to attract teachers this one way in ours. So we tried to get a CPD programme, and we've done it this year. The year we kind of had quite a lot of, and we get our tutors to deliver them as well, because we find it gets much more buy-in generally.
Yeah.
And so we'll get permanent tutors coming to the sessions as well as just visiting tutors for the summer. So it's really good. Our problem is time. When do you get these in? Everyone's marking crazy, and especially for 6 weeks tutors, they come and by week 4, which is so we count down 6-5, week 4 they're marking summatives.
Yeah.
So how do you make it work?
But the issue of time is always going to be a problem. The way that we structure the CPD sessions at Birmingham, there is no input teaching on a Wednesday afternoon. So that is ring-fenced for CPD. It's not compulsory. You can attend if you wish. So you always have some drop-off around the pinch points, and that's expected, and we experience that every year. But CPD is also valuable to a lot of people, and they are motivated to attend.
This is what we feel, and we want to do it. We just it's just constant tension, isn't it, between workload and also developing yourself on the pre-session. But we're not going to stop doing it. But I just wondered if you had a magic formula.
If I did, I would bottle it and sell it for millions. But unfortunately, I don't. It's just possibly if you can ring fence a particular period of time where there's a fixed time during the week that this is dedicated to CPD, and rather than doing it in an ad hoc kind of way, just having that ring fenced time does work, because everyone has that ingrained. Wednesday from 3 till 4 is CPD time.
That's kind of what we have, so it's like, no, but it's really good, yeah.
But I think doing this activity, again, as I said, you have that staff buy-in. They have contributed to actually creating the professional development programme. So they have that sense of agency and that involvement.
I love the mingle as well. First day of induction, it's a great way of breaking the ice, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
There's lots of really positive things. I was wondering if you could use Jamboard to do it, because actually then everyone can actually move things around, can't they?
Yes, they can.
So
yeah.
It might be a way of getting around it online.
I'm not hugely proficient with Jamboard, if I'm honest. Padlet is my go-to thing, but it's definitely worth looking at.
You can use Miro, M-I-R-O, Miro.
Okay, yeah.
That's really good for the move, but it's got a bit more functionality than Padlet, and if you want to move stuff around, Miro, perhaps another option if you need to do it online again.
Yeah.
It might be worth looking at.
That's a good point, thank you.
Jamboard's good, but it's Google, so a lot of universities on Google.
So what was it?
Miro, M-I-R-O. You can get an educator's
Like a license.
or whatever. I think at Warwick we can put in our Warwick, there's some page we have to go and click to confirm that we are a member of Warwick staff, and then we've got sort of pretty much unlimited access to it. So it might be worth checking out whether you have free institutions for that. I think it's
Great.
open to all universities.
B, did you have a...
I suppose just the time issue. We had the same issue with Leeds, that we planned things in on a Wednesday and people didn't turn up because they had. So a few years ago, what we decided to do and it has its own issues, is put it all in one day, and we have a conference, you know, summer conference,
Yeah.
where we encourage before sort of people who are joining us on repeat for the summer. We have constant communication with them throughout the year, and we send out call for papers, so it kind of creates that sort of sense of it being an academic endeavour, and we open it up to the wider university to try and get people to come and talk to our staff as well. So it does have its issues for module leads, because we have a 10-week and a 6-week, and we want everybody to be included. So some people are teaching, and we sort of say on that day you've got to find a way of entertaining the students in a different way so that as many people can come.
Yeah, we have a CPD conference at Birmingham as well, and we collapse the timetable for an afternoon, and we dedicate that to the CPD conference. Michelle?
Yeah, just, I mean, sort of the final thing, I mean, something that came up on the pages I was looking at was this thing of, you know, how can I get employed for the rest of the year, or all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a sort of tie-in here, you know, that, you know, participating in this kind of, you know, co-creation of CPD, contributing to that. If you have a conference, which I think is a great idea, you know, that is then something that teachers can put on their CV.
Yeah.
That, you know, I presented at the Birmingham CPD conference
Definitely,
last summer.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, I think, yeah, I've said what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And just one last thing as well, we also, with the CPD conference this year, we've also trialled the idea of having conference proceedings. So that opens it up again for the opportunity for people to have a go at publishing as well, if that's something that they would like to pursue. Okay, thank you very much indeed, everybody.